Your alarm goes off at 6:30 a.m., but you've been awake for 20 minutes already, staring at the ceiling again. You've been doing this job for 7 years now, and somewhere along the way, your body learned to wake up in dread before the alarm even gets a chance. Here's what nobody tells you about the 9 to 5. It's not just a schedule. It's a mechanism designed to extract the maximum value from your life while giving you just enough comfort to never question it. Most people think they're trading time for money, but that's not what's actually happening. You're trading autonomy for safety, and the cost is higher than you think. Let's start with something simple. How much of your life do you actually control? You wake up when your job requires. You eat lunch when your job allows. You see your family when your job permits. You take vacation when your job approves. Notice the pattern? Your job isn't just buying your labor, it's buying your decision-making authority. Here's where it gets interesting. The average full-time employee works 40 hours a week, right? Wrong. Factor in the commute, that's another 8 hours. Add the time you spend thinking about work, checking emails at night, the Sunday evening anxiety as you mentally prepare for Monday. You're closer to 55 or 60 hours. And that's before we talk about what happens to the rest of your time. Because even when you're not working, you're recovering from work. You're too tired to start that side project, too drained to learn that new skill, too mentally exhausted to do anything except collapse on the couch and scroll. Your employer doesn't just own your working hours, they own your recovery time too. That's the part nobody calculates. Think about what you did last Tuesday evening. Really think about it. If the answer is nothing memorable, that's not because you're lazy. It's because you had nothing left to give. Your job already took it. This is the hidden cost of employment that never shows up on your pay stub. The slow erosion of your ability to become anything other than what you currently are. But here's what makes this system brilliant. It doesn't feel like a trap. It feels like responsibility, like being an adult. You've got bills to pay, obligations to meet. The 9 to 5 isn't constraining you, it's providing for you, right? That's the story anyway. And it's compelling because it contains just enough truth to be believable. You do need money. You do have responsibilities. But what if I told you those responsibilities were engineered specifically to keep you dependent? What if the bills, the mortgage, the car payment weren't just expenses but anchors designed to make sure you never drift too far from your desk? Let me introduce you to Marcus, software engineer. Makes $95,000 a year. By most standards, he's successful. He's got a nice apartment downtown, leases a decent car, goes out on weekends. Last year, his company offered him a $15,000 raise. He was ecstatic. Finally, some breathing room. Within 3 months, his rent increased, he upgraded his car lease, started eating out more often. His bank account looked exactly the same as it did before the raise. This isn't an accident. This is the system working exactly as designed. Every time you level up your income, the lifestyle creep matches it. You're running on a treadmill that speeds up the moment you start making progress. And the faster you run, the more trapped you become. Because now you need that $95,000 just to maintain what you have. You can't take a pay cut to pursue something meaningful. You can't risk a few months without income to start your own thing. You're stuck. But you don't call it stuck. You call it stable. And that word, stable, is doing a lot of heavy lifting. Because what it really means is predictable, controllable, unable to leave. Here's what nobody tells you about that stability. It has an expiration date. Your company doesn't owe you permanence. They owe you nothing beyond the terms of an agreement that can be terminated with 2 weeks' notice. You've traded decades of your life for a promise that can be revoked in a 15-minute meeting with HR. And here's the part that should terrify you. The skills you're developing at that job? They're getting narrower every year, more specialized, more specific to that one company's systems. You think you're building a career, you're actually building a dependency. 5 years in, you're an expert in exactly one thing. Their processes, their software, their way of doing business. Try taking that expertise somewhere else. Watch how little it transfers. Meanwhile, the person who spent those same 5 years building something of their own, even if they failed 3 times, learned more transferable skills than you did in a decade of climbing someone else's ladder. They know how to sell, how to build, how to recover from failure. You know how to navigate office politics and format reports correctly. Which person do you think is actually more secure? Now let's address the elephant in the room. I'm not saying quit your job tomorrow. That's not the point. The point is recognizing what your job actually is. It's a resource, a tool, not a destination. The moment you start treating it like the end goal instead of a stepping stone, you've lost. Your salary should be funding your escape from needing that salary. But most people do the opposite. They use their paycheck to build a lifestyle that requires an even bigger paycheck. It's a prison they construct one purchase at a time, and they don't even realize they're the architect. So what's the alternative? Start small. Take 10% of what you earn and redirect it somewhere that doesn't require your presence. Index funds, a side project, a skill that could generate income independently. Anything that creates distance between your survival and your employer's goodwill. Here's what happens when you do this consistently. That 10% becomes a psychological buffer. Then it becomes options. Then it becomes leverage. You walk into your next performance review differently when you know you could survive 6 months without them. You negotiate differently. You tolerate less. You become the kind of employee who's there by choice, not necessity. And that shift, that tiny reframe, changes everything. Because the system only works when you believe you have no alternative. The moment you build one, even a small one, the trap loses its grip. Most people won't do this. They'll read this, nod along, maybe feel uncomfortable for a few hours, then go right back to optimizing their position within the cage. They'll get that next raise, upgrade the car again, and wonder why they still feel stuck. But some of you are different. You felt something shift while reading this, not just intellectually understanding it, but actually feeling the walls of the trap for the first time. That discomfort you're feeling right now, that's not anxiety. That's awareness. And awareness is the only thing that creates change. The salary trap doesn't break because you earn more. It breaks because you decide that freedom matters more than comfort. That building something matters more than maintaining something. That your time, your energy, your finite existence on this planet is worth more than the security of a predictable paycheck. You already know what you need to do. The question is whether you'll actually do it. The question isn't whether the 9 to 5 is a trap. The question is whether you're willing to admit you're in it. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people reading this won't change anything. They'll feel that momentary spark of recognition, that brief window where they see the mechanism clearly, and then they'll let it fade. They'll go back to checking their email on Sunday nights and calling it responsibility. But you're not most people. If you were, you would have clicked away 3 minutes ago. The system doesn't fear people who complain about their jobs. It fears people who quietly start building alternatives, who redirect resources, who treat their employment like the temporary arrangement it actually is. Every hour you reclaim, every dollar you redirect, every skill you develop outside those walls is a crack in the foundation of your dependency. Your boss doesn't own your soul, but they'll rent it for as long as you keep showing up believing you have no other option. The moment you create one, everything changes. Not because the job changes, but because you do. You stop being someone who needs permission to exist and start being someone who's choosing to participate. That choice is available right now. Not someday when conditions are perfect. Not after the next raise or promotion. Now. The only question left is whether you'll make it.